breaking news, Iran has reportedly conducted a test of an intercontinental ballistic missile with an estimated range of 10,000 kilometers. This is currently being reported only by Iranian state media. Obviously, this is a matter that will have to be analyzed by the West to see how much can be confirmed by the intelligence services of those countries. General Mohammad Harani Mogad, a key figure, would be part of the development of this Iranian missile technology. The objective wasn't clear, but the idea is to show capabilities. Obviously, to whoever it may concern. They have been sharing some of these images. Honestly, it's hard to classify them as real or not. These are images that those media outlets from that country have been publishing. We'll see if it's confirmed over time. Obviously, it could be concerning if they have intercontinental missiles. The range of a tested missile would suggest that it could reach certain territories in Europe and even some territories in the United States. Strategic regions or bases located in the ocean. The action is interpreted as a show of force amid regional and global tensions, especially in the context of the conflict between Israel and Iran. Washington has also been monitoring the arms programs for some time, including Iran's nuclear program. By the way, just yesterday they were saying that Iran's current nuclear program has been warned about by the Iranians themselves. What does this mean? Everyone can interpret it differently, but to me, it means the nuclear program now has no restrictions. And the only restriction it had was the issue of nuclear weapons. So it's clearly implied that they will be making nuclear weapons. We need to clarify if it means an intercontinental missile. What's this? From my point of view, the restriction that is the CON, the idea of a nuclear weapon. Well, obviously that puts them in a different position. This, in case it's real, I insist. In the end, this is also a war of perception, and not everything that is said is real in this kind of regimes. Not even in democratic countries. They always tell the truth. Imagine in these countries. What they do report is that the missile could belong to the Chromasa family. Chromasa would be a variant of a missile that the Iranians already had, and it would be a stronger variant. So, the Iranians at some point have shown that they have certain levels of weapons, especially missiles that reach much greater distances and are ballistic. They enter the atmosphere and land elsewhere, making them hard to track. To be able to stop, there is already a system like Arrow 3 and others capable of handling these missiles. Arrow 3 is the Israeli system, and there are other systems that can also target ballistic missiles. Remember, Iran also has a nuclear program. So it wouldn't be so surprising that if you already have the capability to launch satellites, you also have the capability to launch a ballistic missile, right? So, are there real possibilities that they have this type of weapon? The possibilities exist, but whether it's real, we'll have to wait and see. The missile, well, they've already been showing different images of it. The range would supposedly be 10,000 kilometers, and the strategy? More and more, it's, as they say, about deterrence, about making sure no one can act against them, because they would be showing strength, they would be showing power, according to what they say, and they mention it as a national milestone. Obviously, this is how they see it. They see it as something that is, let's say, well, something they're clearly proud of, right? That's the narrative that the Ayatollah's regime is pushing right now, and if it's confirmed, it would obviously be tremendous. And speaking of technology, they present this robot. Images have been emerging showing this delivery robot. It's a robot that opens this box, and I imagine it's still in the testing phase. It doesn't bend down, it throws the box, and well, the robot just goes on its way. Robotics is increasingly present in the daily life of many cities around the world. Obviously, the person back there could maybe be laid off in the future. Obviously, jobs are going to change in the coming years. Some people think that the job market will shrink, while others believe that jobs will simply be modified. Jobs will be different. In the interview, Volodymyr Zelensky says that Putin is trying to remain at war. Well, now, from here until he dies, because he wants to stay in power. Putin fears society because he wants to stay president for life, so he needs public support. He depends on the war continuing. That's the big question and our main challenge. That's why I'm not sure there will be a peace agreement. There is an intention to reach an agreement. This is the annual inflation shown in food according to each country. In Turkey, inflation is 36%. In Argentina, it's 27% in food. Russia, 9%, Japan, 7%, Brazil, 6%. South Africa, United Kingdom, Indonesia, 5% each, Netherlands, 4%, Mexico, 3.9%, Italy, 3.7%, Canada, 3.4%. Well, here are some of the countries where, by the end of the year, it costs you almost 40% more, like in Turkey. The food situation is shocking. How does Erdogan stay in power, right? In the case of Argentina, it's a bit different because they were already coming from even worse inflation, the food situation. And even though it's very high, it has decreased. Now the thing is to ask Argentinians, how do they see the current government? That would have to be analyzed. They also spotted this giant shopping cart which can hold up to 8 people. There is this cart with an impressive height, and it could easily tip over at any moment. But well, it's one of those crazy ideas that suddenly come to mind. And there it is, cruising down some street in the United States. The number of evacuees in the Philippines has increased to 22,000. Are they still evacuating this region of the world? Even though the phenomenon happened, the hardest part is over. The entire northern part, as you can see, is currently experiencing an impressive amount of rainfall. In high-risk areas, people are being evacuated. It's a very populated, very overcrowded country, and even though it sounds harsh, evacuations are usually carried out. The high-risk areas are mainly rural zones or suburbs within cities that have risks, especially for those who live very close to landslides and rivers. Fengsheng is the phenomenon that is currently a tropical storm in the area. It has weakened and is heading toward this area of Vietnam. This is where it will make landfall, possibly already as a tropical depression. It's the same area where the phenomenon and evacuations are happening. Several significant earthquakes have been reported. 5.4, 5.2. These are moderate earthquakes, but they've also struck this part of the Philippines. See you in the next report. I'll leave you here with the next news.